Hello there. A new Errata has been dropped today, so here's my take on it. We're just going to go through it. So the first rule relates to crunch, which is essentially when does a cannonball stop. So this is after it's bounced. If the path of the bounce takes it into impassable terrain or high linear obstacle, it stops immediately. They've added hill. So if it hits a hill, that's it. There is another bullet point is if it hits a large target, it stops. So they've not got rid of large target. That's just a separate bullet point. They've changed the Berserker Blade again. The last errata changed it to the wielder being frenzied. Now their wielder is impetuous and has an extra attack, strength +1 and AP nothing is the same. And magical attacks is the same. So they've just given you impetuous and extra attacks. This is actually quite a good improvement. It's only 20 points. You might see this scene play now, specifically for like orcs, because there's a lot of impetuous stuff there where an extra attack would be quite nice. So that's a pretty decent change to the rules. Frequently asked questions in the rulebook. If a specific natural roll triggers an effect, is that effect still triggered if the dice is So this bit is basically like somebody's asking, if I hit, like, for instance, a unit with the Mark of Nurgle with a poisoned attack and I rolled a 6 to hit, I then re-roll the 6 to hit and I get a 5, so still hitting, do I still get the poisoned attack? Well, no, of course you don't. Can range self spells stack? No. Yeah, fair enough. I wish they'd stop vortices stacking as well, but whatever. If a unit has to wheel before a charge, do I have to allow for it when declaring and measuring the charge? Yes, you've got to measure the whole charge. The free wheel at the end is free, so you don't have to account for that, but you do have to, try to manoeuvre it, and which does include wheels. It's not just measure from closest point to closest point. Is that an 8th edition rule, I think? But that's not the case anymore. You're allowed one wheel, and it's got to hit. When do you decide which enemy unit you attack? So if you've got a model that's in combat with 2 enemy units, when do you choose which enemy unit? And it's at its initiative step. So you could attack with the rider, who might be like initiative 8 or whatever, and then if the dragon that it's on is like initiative 6, the dragon can then choose to attack the same target or a different one. It's a different initiative step, so you go through the initiative steps. So that's the way I understand it, and that's what they've clarified. My unit charges an enemy that's defending a low linear obstacle, making base contact with the obstacle rather than the unit. Can it make impact hits or stomps? No! This is a clarification for me. I didn't realise that. So models must be in base contact to make him. I thought being in base contact with a low linear obstacle makes you. Now this is interesting because obviously there's a spell, isn't there? I forget which spell law it is, which gives you a 5 at ward and you count as defending a low linear obstacle. However, obviously there is no actual physical low linear obstacle, so you are still in base contact. So for that spell, I think you just get the disordered charge thing rather than it stopping impact hits and stomps. Because it doesn't specifically say that. But does overkill count against champions, or is it only characters? Of course, it's all challenges. If a model has Armor Bane, does Armor Bane apply to impact hits and stomps? Yes, obviously. If a unit is charged by 2 or more enemy units, countercharges one of them, because you pick one to countercharge, it may end its movement presenting a different arc. Do those units resolve their charges? So if you countercharge, so you get charged by 2 units, if you countercharge that unit, and then you present your flank to this unit, am I in the flank? Yes, you are, of course. Infantry that has been joined by cavalry charges an enemy unit with countercharge. Can that unit countercharge? No, because the unit's troop types doesn't change. A unit of heavy infantry isn't changed by the fact that somebody on a horse has joined it. How far does a unit model with random movement special rule move when making a countercharge? D3+1. It's countercharging. Warbeasts and Swarms fear models with flaming attacks. Do Warbeasts and Swarms that have immune psychology fear models that have the flaming attack special rule? Yes. They've not actually clarified, does that override immune psychology? So quite a lot of Swarms do have immune psychology. So presumably you still have to take fear checks unless you cause fear. So that's a bit weird. If some models only cause fear but others don't, how do I calculate unit strength for seeing if the enemy unit cares about my fear? Well, it's only the models that cause fear, rather obviously. What happens if a unit with move through cover is joined by a character without it? You lose move through cover, basically. That's it. Can a model make a regen save when it loses a wound, for instance, due to unstable? Of course not. You can't use your Tomb King 6-up regen save to try and save models that are taken off through combat res. So, no, of course you can't. This one's interesting, because this is how I read it, rules as written, but I've never really seen anybody play it like this. But essentially, if you deploy scouts, so if you finish deploying first, but your opponent doesn't have scouts, and then you put down scouts, you do count as deploying last. So that's interesting. That's a new clarification. Stupidity. How far must it move? As far as the controlling player wishes. As long as it's in a straight line without performing any manoeuvres. Fair enough. Can I move it into base contact with an enemy unit? No, because you're not charging. Is the armor value of regen improved by shield barding or... No. Unless it says regen, no. When do you declare you're using Swift Stride? Before you'd use it? Charge, flee or pursuit roll? So, I mean, it's pretty automatic for charge rolls, I think. Flee and pursuit is different because you don't actually have to use Swift Stride. It's one of the biggest mistakes I see people making. They just pick up 3 dice and roll them. You don't have to pick up 3 dice and roll them. You can just do 2. If a character without Vanguard joins a unit with it, can the character make a Vanguard move with the unit? No. If you're in skirmish formation, the unit can make a Vanguard move and leave the character behind, but that's it. You can't move the character with it. How does a unit of skirmishers form when charged by 2 or more different enemy units? So basically, this is the one where the chargers actually don't move simultaneously. The person charging chooses which one to move with first, moves that in, you rank up your skirmishers as usual, and then you make the charge against the kind of formed up skirmish unit with other units, which could mean that charges fail. So you just got to be a bit careful when charging skirmishers. Skirmishers are even better now. Do skirmishers have flank or rear arcs while engaged in combat? No. I mean, I guess not. Well, because they've said not. So this is a new thing for me. But anyway, because I thought like those arcs kind of represented you being surrounded, but skirmishers don't care about being surrounded, it seems. If a unit subject to leadership modifiers uses general's inspiring presence, what did they used to have for that? Characters. Where's characters? If a unit loses a round of combat to a terror, -1 applies to whichever, be that or its generals. Modifier still apply. The modifier will still apply. No, for example. Oh, so they've had poop. They've what have I done? There we go. So they've added or any other rule that allows the unit to use the leadership of a nearby character. So it does modify like Bretonnian knights giving their units leadership to peasants. A clumsy unit cannot be joined by a character that is not also clumsy, but can a clumsy character joining it? Yeah, this is like joining monstrous infantry. So normal sized characters can't join monstrous infantry because they're clumsy, but monstrous infantry can join normal infantry. Does a unit that's joined by a character of a different troop type gain the rules associated with that character's troop type? No. Of course not. Why would you? Can ward saves be improved by shield barding or anything that improves armour? Because, you know, in the ward save mechanic it says the armour value. But it's not an armour value. Well, it is, but it's not. Basically. And they've clarified that for regen as well. Do obsidian lodestones improve magic res granted by a different source? No. It does say that obsidian lodestone magic res stacks, so you can take multiple to get more magic res, but that doesn't stack with other things. It only stacks with other obsidian lodestones, which is fine. Does a magic standard affect the unit's weapons, also make those weapons magical? No. No. Because it doesn't say that it does. How does Spectral Doppelganger interact with weapons that either have strike first or strike last? The spell is cast at the wizard's initiative. So if you've got a strike first wizard, it says the spell is cast at the wizard's initiative. So even if you have a wizard with like initiative 6, but they have the strike first rule for whatever reason, you'd still cast a spell at initiative 6. So you'd have it attacking at initiative 7, Doppelganger at initiative 6, or if strike last, it'd be initiative 1. So they're saying strike last affects it, strike first doesn't, effectively. If a wizard wears a wizarding hat, does it increase their level? So does the wizarding hat give them another level 1 wizard on top of their level 4 wizard? No, it would actually make them just a level 1 wizard. So don't give the wizarding hat to level 4 wizards, because it reduces their effectiveness. Can a wizard, this is quite big, can a wizard with Lore Familiar choose one of their faction signature spells instead of the signature? So if you've got Lore Familiar, you can only choose spells from the lore that you've decided to select spells from. So that's pretty interesting, actually. That's debuffed Lore Familiar a little bit for me. Go away. Dragon Ogre Shaggoths, where do they get magic items from? Common or Beastman? You know, it's from their home faction, basically. Can purchase items. And that's the rulebook errata. So not a lot in there. There's a couple of interesting bits there. Wizarding hat's interesting. Stuff about impact hits and stomps not working over low linear obstacles is pretty cool. Yeah. It also means that impact hits don't affect Bretonnians behind stakes, I think. But comment down below, see what you think. None of that's particularly game breaking or revelatory. I don't think any of it's had like a particularly massive effect for me. Apart from, like I said, the stomp thing. And the crunch thing, I just assumed that if it hit a hill, it stopped. So that's me misreading the rules. Anyway, good guy errata. Questing Knights changed their unit size to 3 up. I thought they were... What are they? 5 up. So you can take them in units of 3. As you can with Grail Knights. That makes them slightly more compelling, actually. A little unit of 3 of them to like sub 100 points to rock around and take out artillery, war machines, that kind of thing. You know, strength 6. They've all got great weapons. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. This is a big nerf. So, Sisters of the Thorn, they have a 4-up ward save. I think that's the same as it is at the moment. 4+ ward save against any wounds suffered. Yeah. Models with a special wound have a 4-up ward save against any wounds. This unit. Ooh, so actually, rules as written here, it confers that to characters as well. Because if you're in the unit, but you don't anymore. It's just the sisters themselves. Deepwood Coven. Now, this is a single. The rule at the moment is a unit of Sisters of the Thorn knows a single spell chosen by their controlling player from either battle or elementalism. Right? It's changed to randomly generated by their controlling player from battle magic or elementalism. That means no more spamming Column of Fire. No more spamming Plague of Rust. I'm not sure I agree with that, actually, because I don't think Wood Elves are that good. I don't think it's that good. But anyway, they've decided to nerf them. Interesting. Goblin Hewers. They've got the Arcane Journals in here as well. So Goblin Hewers changed the crew's wounds and attacks characteristics to 2. Yeah, okay, fine. I mean, it's still a bit rubbish, but whatever. Guardian of the Sacred Sites. This is the Green Knight. So natural terrain doesn't include vortices, open ground, hills, or any constructions such as walls or buildings. So it's got to be like a wood or a lake, basically, is what it comes from. Which is, interesting. And if you fight on certain, like, battlefields, then it might not be able to turn up. So, Green Knight, yeah, I think, it's a bit of a weird one, to be honest. I mean, yeah, it's really good if you're on, like, a normal woody, whatever, but, like, it's quite limited as to where it can come on the table. So I think they've nerfed the Green Knight a little bit there, because I think people had classed hills as terrain. There's stuff about how to handle Slayers, because Slayers come in Troll Slayer and Giant Slayer are like a bit of an upgrade, but Giant Slayers aren't champions. So they're saying that essentially the Standard Bearer will always be the last model to be removed. And if you kill a Giant Slayer, do Troll Slayers pick up like Banner and Musician? And yeah, they do. But typically Giant Slayers will pick up command stuff first, and then Troll Slayers will pick it up last. Which is, fair enough. I've not really thought about that, but that sounds like how I'd handle it. If a unit bearing the standard inscribed with a Master Rune of Hesitation falls back in good order and is pursued and caught, does the rune take effect? Of course it does, because it counts as charging. So it counts as being charged. Do runes inscribed upon a Doomseeker's Whirling Blades of Death apply to impact hits? Yes, that's what it says in the rules. Before a steam tank charges, can it use steam power to increase how far it moves? No, because that's used instead of marching, which is what it says in the rules. Charging is not a march. It's not instead of marching. Can a character with a Shield of Lady, special rule, retire to the rear of their unit after issuing a challenge, enabling them to avoid their opponent's attacks? No, because actually, rules as written, they could have done previously. However, they've just clarified it here that that's dumb and you can't do it. So basically, what people were doing were essentially declaring a challenge with a damsel or a prophetess. The opponent was accepting, and then essentially they use this rule to retire the damsel behind the knights, so the damsel's no longer in the fighting rank. She can still attack as if she were in the fighting rank, because that's what the rule said, but then she couldn't be hit because she's not in the fighting rank, so that your opponent's champion in the challenge with her couldn't hit her back, which was obviously dumb. I've got the Gauntlet of the Duel. I want to challenge a specific enemy character. Can I do so? No. Now, if you issue a challenge, your opponent can choose whoever they like to accept. The Gauntlet of the Duel means they've got to accept it with somebody, if they can. Pardon me. Is a charging lance blunted if an enemy countercharges it? No. Technically, rules as written it was, but because a countercharge counts as charging, so I'm glad they've clarified that, because that would be stupid. This is High Elves now, does martial prowess allow models to make supporting attacks with weapons that don't have the ability to make supporting attacks? No. Martial prowess allows you to make supporting attacks to the side, but you need to have supporting attacks as a rule first. And that's the good guys. There's not a lot in there. There's this nice clarification of the lance stuff. I don't know anybody who was using that like that. This is a good Shield of the Lady thing. That's a good clarification, because it's a bit spawny, and I have heard of that being done. What else? And I think the really big thing. Actually, this is quite big. Magical vortices. You can't summon your Green Knight through a magical vortex. I think that's pretty big. So you might see Green Knight being played less because of that. I think Questing Knight's going down to a 3 unit. That's actually pretty good for them. And this is very, very impactful for Wood Elf players. You'll see Sisters a lot less now. A lot less. I mean, they are still exceptionally good light cavalry. Because they've got fire and flee. And they've got poisoned attacks. They've got really good ballistic skill. they've got these Blackbriar javelins, which are move and shoot, so which is march and shoot and quick shot. So they've got essentially strength 3 javelins that they can move 16 inches, sorry, hit on 2s, you know. So they've got good weapons. And all that, and you know, 4+ ward is very, very good, and they still get to cast a spell. The thing is, you can't really rely on any of their spells in particular, because what's the what is the elementalism signature spell? Necromancy, illusion, high. Storm call. Oh no, that's not very good. -1 movement, bit rubbish, and initiative. So you've actually got to roll for it now. So that is a massive nerf actually. So yeah, somebody doesn't like sisters. Considering all the other broken stuff in the game, it's interesting they've picked on that, but whatever. So then bad guys. Ed butting at. You're only allowed 1 per model. Well, yeah, I mean, let's just check it out quickly. I think you have to go 1 over. Ed butting at. So because it's common, you could take multiple. So you could take, like, I think you're still only allowed to take 3 of a multiple thing. Anyway, you could give yourself 3 impact hits with AP2. With 3 Ed butting ats, but now you're only allowed 1. Fair enough. Skin wolves. Right, they're just clarifying that a Jarl is a champion. Okay, and also giving them fear. I didn't notice that they didn't have fear. I assume they did. So, oops. They've given close orders to the Warpfire Dragon. Again, I didn't notice that that wasn't there. So, two clarifications that absolutely make sense. VPs for Night Goblins. You have to kill... If you kill the Night Goblins, then you get the VPs for the Fanatics, whether they're on the table or not. I'm glad they've clarified that. This is how I've considered it originally. So, you know, that's obvious. But it does need clarifying because it's not actually written down anywhere. Boar boys upgrading to big uns. Do their war balls benefit as well? Yeah, but not for impact hits, because impact hits are unmodified strength, apparently. So, if you're in the... where are we? If you're in the Arcane Journal, the Nomadic Horde list, that sort of thing, then Boar boys get impact hits. So big uns as an upgrade basically just gives you +1 strength, I think, which means the war boars get that upgrade as well. So if we go down and have a look at big uns, +1 strength and armor bane 1. So impact hits would gain armor bane 1, and the boars are +1 strength. But that's when engaged in combat, so it's not baseline. So it's not like they've got strength 4 base. They're actually strength 3 all the time. So if they have to take a strength test, for instance, unless they're in combat, they're actually strength 3. So big uns aren't automatically. But it's interesting that they've given that to the mount as well. So that's quite cool, actually. I quite like that because they've got, you know, bigger orcs, bigger boars. Can the glowy green amulet be used by a character that isn't a wizard? Yeah, it's a talisman. How have they written it that people have asked that question? The glowy green amulet. If the bearer is a target of an enemy spell, they may use it instead of making... Okay, instead of making a wizardly dispel attempt. So that would imply that you have to be able to make a wizardly dispel attempt anyway. But no, now you can give it to any character, and on a tilt the spell is dispelled. That's really, really good for like a unit champion in a unit, like a Black Orc in a unit of Black Orcs. In fact, you might it's 1 for 1, isn't it? But you might see that sometimes, because essentially it's like, yeah, can't be used against a perfect invocation, but yeah, really good. Quite like that. That's a decent clarification. Can the size of range self aura if affected by increased? Can the size of a Jesus? Can the size of a ranged self spell's aura of effect be increased by the Idol of Guk? No. The aura of effect of a range self spell is not its range. That's correct. Rules as written even as well, because the range of the spell is self. It's the size of its aura is not the range of its spell. Rules as written. So good clarification though, if people were doing that. Arcane Journal, Warriors of Chaos. So this is the Wolves of the Sea. They're allowed to do this Warriors Duel thing where you get a single wound character that can, fight in a challenge, and if you win it, you get to go first, basically. So this one says, what happens if I wish to accept a challenge but I don't have any single wound champions in my army? You roll off as normal. You can't do the Warriors Duel. So poor old ogres can't ever do a Warriors Duel, I think. Do Noblars have champions? Don't know. When fighting in a Warriors Duel between 2 unit champions, do magic standards count? No. So they fight without the support of the unit. So whatever magic item you've given the champion, that's all they've got. Does the unit with Blood Greed always roll only a singles d6 when making pursuit, or only while frenzied? That's possibly a good question. It depends what they've said. Whilst frenzied. I mean, I don't think that needs clarifying. It says there, whilst frenzied. It's the first 2 words of the... But whatever. Okay, clarified. This one is like, Khemri don't need any extra help, but apparently they do. Can a Casket of Souls move at the end of the shooting phase using reserve move? Yes, because the Casket of Souls is an immovable object. The special... well, they're saying clearly, so they think it's quite clear. So let's have a look. Once a Casket of Souls has been placed on the battlefield during deployment, it cannot be moved by its crew during the remaining moves sub-phase. Doesn't say it can't be moved. It also does say it can make a follow-up move, actually. So yeah, I guess that's probably right. So you can reserve move it, so it can move. It can move 4 inches because you got crew, so you can move it about on the table. Oh god damn it! I need to buy one now. Anyway, so that's the bad guys. There's a nice clarification of the Fanatics thing, because I have seen that some TOs say, no, you don't get the VPs unless the Fanatics are dead, which is a bit rubbish sometimes, because they sometimes just don't die, and you can't really kill them. That's a good clarification for Orcs. That's cool for Orcs as well. That's cool for Khemri. And everything else seems pretty straightforward. So that's it. That's the FAQ. That's the errata. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, etc. And hope you have a great day. Toodaloo.